Hi, it's good that everyone's with us today. Today we have a very special guest, Barry Gordon, who has depth of expertise in the area of estate settlement for those who are executors, for estate planning. So I was at a conference for certified executor advisors, and Barry did a workshop, and it was phenomenal. And I knew because I come across this all the time, the services that they offer and the expertise they have is so valuable that I've asked Barry, and he graciously allowed to come here. Barry, why don't I give it over to you, and you can explain to us the easy estate settlement strategy, and how that could be beneficial to so many people in so many unique situations.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Mark. All right. Okay. Today we're just going to go through a short overview of what it can look like in estate settlement. So the premise basically is this. Being an estate executor these days is a very, very challenging role, and the bar goes up all the time. It gets a little bit harder every year. 5 or 6 years ago, the Ontario government brought in some new legislation that upped the bar for estate executorship. And it seems like every year things get more complex, and we know people are dealing with properties, they're dealing with families, they're dealing with geography, they're dealing with being busy themselves. And so how do they proceed? And the way we look at the world is there's two sides to an estate settlement. There's a liquid asset side and there's the physical asset side. So on the liquid asset side are all of the paper kinds of things that need to happen, right from the lawyer's office and probate applications and paperwork filing and taxes, et cetera. The other side is the house, the physical assets, what's inside it. What do we do with there? Now, we know from dealing with state executors for 60 years
Mhm.
that 75, 80% of the heavy lifting is in that physical asset envelope. The other side is much smaller, frankly, because there are more professionals in the area that can provide input and advice. And it's pretty straightforward stuff, figuring out, what you need to apply for, et cetera. But the physical asset envelope, that's where all the emotions get lost and where everything gets tied up and complexities get created, et cetera, et cetera. So what our company has done is we've built a product basically that is custom built for estate executors dealing with real estate and content. So the real estate industry is an industry that's been built for real estate agents, and that's fine, and it serves a big purpose. And most of us know an agent or more that we like, and that's fine. And it has lots of application. But in an estate settlement, the challenge is completely different, and we would argue that a better option is going to be appealing to a lot of people. So here's ours: lightening the load in estate settlement. Basically, we get a call, and Mark, anytime you want to jump in with a
Yeah.
question, you're welcome to.
Okay,
Okay.
that's good.
So, what we typically do, we get a call from an estate trustee, and they've got a property and they've got contents, and they say, what do I do? Where do I start? We explain our service, which I'll do as we go through these slides. But we explain our service up front. If they want to hire us, they hire us. It's no problem. We can do it online. And then we begin. And so the first step after being hired is to step into the right sequence of activities. And so we take a general inventory of the assets to develop a best operating plan. So take some time to understand what is important, what the trustee has to accomplish, what are the complexities, what are the dynamics, are there people that are going to be second guessing, how many beneficiaries are there, what kinds of complexities do we need to know and understand. So we figure that out first. Then typically we'll get to the property. Sometimes we have to change the locks, set up some security strategy. So, what a lot of people don't know is that when someone passes away and the house is now vacant, the
Mhm.
insurance company may very well have a clause that says, listen, I mean, if the property's vacant, we're not going to insure it unless you do some certain things. So, you got to
Mhm.
call them and find out what are those things. And typically, one of them is going to be house checks. They're going to want to know that somebody's checking on the property every 2 to 3 days to make sure that there's no running water going away somewhere, that the heat's on, if it's, et cetera, and basically that it's contained and being checked on. So set up property checks, sometimes change the locks. If it's a situation where a lot of people, and we're not sure how many, had a key to the property, then that may be something. And these days as well, sometimes there's familiar family members that had a key. And sometimes that's okay, but sometimes it's not,
Mhm.
because the idea for probate is that you start with the entirety, and it isn't an individual beneficiary's or family member, whether the beneficiary or not. It's not up to them to just help themselves. The estate trustee has to follow the will and see what's there and do it in some reasonable fashion and order. So it's important to secure the property and make sure that you're keeping it safe. One of the main things, responsibilities of an estate trustee, is to protect the assets. And
Yeah.
so one of the easy ways to protect the asset is make sure it's secure, get the property checks, and then establish the maintenance routines. Yeah, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was wondering, so let's say someone passes away, the executor, they're getting into it, stuff like that. Now, should they I want you to kind of help us understand, is it okay for them to, like, should they call you right away to get you involved, or they start doing it and they realize they're over their head and then they call you at a later point in the process? When's a better time for them to reach out to you, and is it okay to reach out at a later point in the process?
So the risk of reaching out later is that you've made some mistakes already,
Mhm.
and you can't crawl back from them. And for us, our the business that the business proposition, the
Yeah.
option that we offer is an integrated real estate and transition option that you'll see as we go through this today. And the
Yeah.
core economic piece is the sale of the property. So if a person's already hired their friend, the real estate agent, and then they get through and up to their neck in problems and they can't figure out their way through it, we can't help them then because they've already committed their economics to another player. And
Yeah.
so it's important for, if clients want to consider our option, it's important that they consider it before they've committed any other option. Even if they've got a friend, that's a real estate agent, they typically would go to that person. That may be fine at the end of the day. But if you take the time to understand our option first, see
Mhm.
how it applies or it doesn't, then you
Mhm.
get the option of deciding whether or not this is the right fit for you in this situation, or whether or not you want to go it with your friend. If you
Yeah.
just plain start with your friend, that our option never gets on the table. You don't get a chance at it.
Got it.
Right.
So then they could then so if someone they become an executor within a very short period of time, they could arrange a call to talk to yourself or someone over there to just explore what it would be like, and you can help them understand it, so then they can know if they're making the right decision at the beginning.
They can know what the option looks like. That's right, exactly. They call us and go through it with one of our people,
Mhm.
and we do it every day. So we know the circumstances, we know which questions to ask,
Good.
and understand the situation, explain how our option would fit there, and then the trustee can decide whether or not this is the kind of thing they want to do. Um, and if they take our option, they'll get great results, and there'll be a whole lot less stress and a whole lot safer.
That's
Right.
good. Thanks.
So after we've taken the inventory, protected the asset, secured the property, then we establish maintenance routines. So if it's summertime, it's grass. If it's wintertime, it might be snow. And just to make sure that the property is maintained, protected as it goes along. We've all driven by properties that the grass is 4 feet high and the windows look like maybe they're a little bit boarded up or smashed. And you don't need any of that, right? You got to protect the asset. And so it's easy for us to set up a routine. And then the next piece is to get certified appraisals for the real
Yeah.
estate and for personal property. So for probate filing, when an
Mhm.
estate trustee files for probate, as you know, they have
Mhm.
to declare, what does the estate consist of and what's it all worth? And they need to do that because, for a number of reasons. But first and foremost is the government wants to know how much tax are you going to pay on this. Now, we don't have an estate tax, but we have probate filing fees. And probate filing fees are based on the value of the estate. And best practice for an estate trustee who wants to be safe
Mhm.
is to get an appraisal of the real estate and appraisal of the personal property. Now, in our case, those are free. That's part
Mhm.
of our value add, no charge. It's part of the process. If we're selling the property for you eventually, you're going to
Mhm.
get these things and you're going to get certified appraisals. In the case of the real estate, it's going to be a third party appraisal. So at this stage, it's
Mhm.
not going to be one of our agents. We're going to go and subcontract to a third party local certified appraiser and
Mhm.
have them appraise the real estate. That's your probate filing number. And then later in the process, when we sell the property, we'll review those things. I'll talk about that when we get to it. But it's important to, and this is another question, people sometimes say, well, I know these people are going to be beneficiaries. I should let them help themselves to whatever they want to take before you
Yeah.
do the appraisals. And the answer is no. No, the correct way is to appraise what the estate is, because the
Yeah.
estate is everything the deceased owned at the time of death.
Yeah.
And then after the appraisal's done, if the will says that Joey and Bobby and Sally all get a certain share of things and they want to help themselves to it with some oversight by either the estate trustee or us for the estate trustee, then that's all fine.
Mhm.
We're all on the page of executing on what the will says. The estate trustee is the fiduciary. They are responsible to do what the deceased wanted them to do as best they can and following the instructions. And then we work for the fiduciary to make sure that the things that they need to have done get done. And we'll do as much or as little as they want. So if they're close by and they want to do some of that hands-on, that's fine. If they are further away or they're super busy or they just don't want the responsibility, then they can delegate that to us and we do it every day. So the
Good.
appraisals are next. And then the next stage typically is the appraisals are in hand, the inventories of their financial assets, et cetera, have been done. You've helped them put together what the financial portfolio of the deceased look like. So they've got those numbers.
Mhm.
Maybe you had a life insurance sale in there where they got some life insurance money that traveled directly outside the estate, which could be awesome for people as well.
Yeah.
And then typically for most people, they're going to use a lawyer to file for
Yeah.
probate.
Mhm.
And so the lawyer files, and then every courthouse, the probate is typically filed in the courthouse of the region where the deceased lived and passed away.
Yeah.
And so each courthouse area, each region has a different amount of time and a different backlog of of wills and to probate. And so it takes a variety of times. We've seen some courthouses that have had 2 and 3 week turnarounds, which is a little rare, but it
Yeah.
happens. And then often we see them 4 to 6 months. And
Mhm.
then through sometimes we see some courthouses that are 10 months, 12 months.
Yeah.
And so it can be a long process. And so that's extra stress for the estate trustee who's protecting the asset, right?
That's right. And on Ontario, the delays, where are you seeing that when they're working with the Ontario Supreme Court of Justice? Like, are they
So,
like within a year uh, to probate the
oh,
will?
yeah. So different places, different amounts of time. So sometimes it's short. There's a at this point in time, one of the regions in Eastern Ontario,
Oh
there is
yeah.
one region that is consistently kind of 4 weeks right now.
Okay.
But for instance, in a lot of the GTA, it's 6 to 10 months. And
Wow.
through
Yeah.
COVID, we certainly saw them that were 12 months and longer.
Yeah.
So out of the gate, a trustee should plan on probably at least 6 months. The
Yeah.
lawyer that they apply with the probate for, if there's somebody that's applying on a regular basis and they've got a number of wills that they're dealing with, they'll know what the turnaround times are from their regional courthouse. And so they'll be able to provide some insight. And then, of course, the next thing is to make sure that the forms are all filled out perfectly. So
Mm.
if you want to know if your lawyer's good at getting them right the first time, they've
Yeah.
got the law clerks that understand everything, and you get it through, right? Because if you get it
Yeah.
goes sometimes it gets sent back and it goes to the bottom of the pile. So for us anyway, in our easy estate settlement, we've got the appraisals done, we've got the probate's been filed for, and then next time maybe some family meetings, some shipping, some storage,
Mhm.
maybe some education. One of the things that we always tell estate trustees that if you would like us
Mhm.
to manage conversations with yourself and the beneficiaries, we're happy to do that.
Mhm.
If it's good for you, we
Yeah.
don't need that. Our trustee is our person that we're taking instructions from.
Yeah.
Family members can have some input, but basically we don't serve them. We serve the trustee. But there are times when in these, in families, et cetera, where a trustee says, listen, I run everything by my sister and I want to make sure that she's involved in all the decisions. No problem. And
Yeah.
these days with Zoom calls like this,
Mhm.
it's easy to set up a meeting that's got various parties in different geographies with different schedules.
Yeah.
and bring them up to date whenever it needs. And we ship things to relatives if that's something that needs to happen. If things need to go into storage, we can get stuff into storage, although I don't recommend storage unless there's an end in sight.
Okay.
Storage can be a bad default situation where it doesn't get better. But anyway, so work with the family if that's something the trustee wants some help with.
Yeah.
And then for most estates, we're going to have a sale of personal property. In most estates are going to have some volume of property that they're not going to keep. And so we would typically organize an online auction for
That's
the
great.
goods. So transparent sale of the personal property that isn't going to be kept. I'm going the wrong way there. And then we get the assets cleared and sold. And then we have a look at the house because we're in this probate period anyway. So we can't get the house on the market yet. So sell the stuff, get it cleared, get the contents out so that there's no confusion around that. One of the big things about traditional real estate is staging. And the problem with staging as it relates to something like an estate settlement is that you're taking the contents all of a sudden and thinking of them in terms of how they decorate the place. And so the value of the stuff becomes secondary, and the emotional value or sentimental value of the stuff becomes secondary. All kinds of issues around that are really important at estate time. The house will sell. It can sell empty. But the confusion is around the rest of the stuff. So for most estates, the easiest process that's going to actually suit everybody better is to get those cleared first and gone, and then look at an empty house. And now that you've got the house empty, you can actually understand it better as well. So have a look at what needs to be done, if anything. Now, a lot of estate trustees are going to say, listen, I just want to sell what I have. I want to sell what the deceased left, and we're fine with that. And we're going to take what that gives us. Other estate trustees are going to be, listen, mom would have preferred if we tidied things up a little bit. So let's have a look. Is there some places that we should paint, et cetera? And so in any case, we look at what issues there may be and then make an execution plan if some of that needs to take place. And then there's typically some time to accomplish that. And then before the property goes on the market, we like to make sure that we understand the property thoroughly and we can help buyers understand the property well. So one of the pieces of our business model is we do not permit our listing agents to work for a buyer on the sale of the same property. Okay. So we don't allow them to double end.
Yeah.
So when we do that, that's a big shift in the real estate industry. That in real estate, it is legal for an agent to work for a buyer and a seller with the proper declarations. However, in our view, best practice, particularly when working for a fiduciary, is separate the roles. And so when you separate the roles, you say, okay, I'm not going to have the listing agent walking through the house explaining different things to buyers, because the buyer is going to see the house with their own agent.
That's right.
So once we know that that's what's going to happen every single time, we create a different process. We create a process where we get the inspections done ahead of time, the wet energy inspections done, the septic if it's in the country, the well if it's in the country, understand anything about that property so that we can publish it all and we can make it easy for buyers and buyer agents to understand it, knowing that they've got to work from the information we give them. And we want everybody on the same program. We want everybody to have the same information so that, we've got the property presented as best we can.
That's good. I like that. Go ahead.
Yep. So then our agents are going to do their updated market research. So we've got the probate appraisal from 6 months ago. What's the market look like right now? And we do sort of a review of that appraisal and an update of, what's going on right now. And then we provide our price recommendation, listing recommendation to the trustee. And then the trustee has the final decision. They can decide, okay, I agree exactly with what you're saying, or I kind of agree with what you're saying, but you know what? I've got a couple of beneficiaries that are putting pressure on me to see if they can get more. So I want to list it a little higher. We get some that say, listen, I want to list it as aggressively as I can because I want the best performance from the marketplace. And, so everybody's got their own idea. The key thing here is that we get updated research. We're only working for the seller, and the estate trustee gets to decide if they what price they're going to list the property at.
So what about if the seller says, we'd like to reno an aspect of the house before it gets sold? Is that something that you're involved in? How does that work if they feel that they want to do that?
Yeah, so we have, and we do, and we can. I can tell you that for most estate trustees, it's really a distraction.
Yeah.
We deal with some houses that were hoarder houses. We deal with some houses where someone passed away in the house and they
Mhm.
weren't discovered for a period of time.
Yeah.
So we deal with some houses that just plain require a
Mhm.
certain amount of intervention, and it might be an industrial cleaning,
Mhm.
it might be some painting, it might be some repairs. We've seen houses where the roof was actively leaking and it
Yeah.
needed to be shored up, so we put a new roof on. We've seen houses where the septic tank is it's all cracked and ruined. The tree roots are growing through it, so it needs to be updated. So we do some of those kinds of things. In terms of the often in an estate, you got an estate trustee that's 70 because his sister died and she was 80,
Yeah.
and then you've got the next generation, some of whom are beneficiaries, and in that next generation you got some younger people that have been watching the renovation shows on TV, and somebody's like, hey, let's update grandma's house right before we sell it. Like, I know we can add a bunch of value. My
Yeah.
advice in that regard generally is that unless there's a professional in the family that
Yeah.
everybody agrees,
Yeah.
can do it, et cetera, and has access to wholesale suppliers, that generally speaking, it's a confusion and a distraction that you don't need. So having
Mhm.
said all of that, if there's an immediate problem, if there are things that need to be addressed, then yes, yes, yes. If
Okay.
they're cosmetic in nature, then you can decide how deep do you want to go.
That's good.
Yeah. So then once we get the property on the market, we've got a nice robust process of listing. It's not just get it on the market and take offers after a half an hour. You hear
Mhm.
sometimes people say in the real estate business, yeah, I sold my house in a day or in an afternoon, or, somebody came over when the real estate agent was knocking the sign on the lawn. In our company, working for a fiduciary, trying to create a pragmatic process for that fiduciary, we list the property. We always get a note from the seller that the seller says they're not going to look at offers until a certain date and time.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that the buying side of the public, all of those buyers are treated exactly fairly, that no one has an advantage over anyone else, that the listing agent is not trying to be on both sides of the fence, and that we hold offers for a period of time so that buyers have an opportunity to find the property, book a showing, get through it, decide if they're interested, and then put themselves in the best position they can be in to make the best offer they can on offer day.
Mhm.
So very robust process. Now, the next thing so a couple other things that we do, I won't go into all the detail around here,
Yeah.
but one of the things that we do is we want to have an offer date and time that plays to the strength of the seller.
Mhm.
So if the seller's in a different time zone, if the estate trustee is in a different time zone or something,
Mhm.
or they've got family members that they want to bring in, or a busy schedule, et cetera, we want to pick a time that works for them
Mhm.
to have the team they want together to consider offers. And that's when we want to drive offers to, and that's our goal. And if a seller can see offers, more than one offer is best case, on offer day at the same date and time, it's easy for them to make a decision that's in their best interest and the estate's best interest. So it's a nice thorough thing. And then for wind up, it's a nice, clean, easy accounting. We're gonna charge a commission on the sale of the property. We're gonna charge back third party expenses, so a lawn service or shipping, or
Mhm.
some stuff had to go storage. Any third party costs that we incurred that they agreed with, we're just
Yeah.
going to bill it back to them at whatever it costs. It's going to flow through our books for convenience.
Mhm.
The other reason that's really helpful is that a lot of people that are estate trustees don't have access to estate funds until they get probate in hand.
Yeah.
So if they're not going to get access to the estate bank account for
Mhm.
6 months,
Mhm.
it's really easy and helpful for them if they know there's somebody else on deck writing checks
Yes.
for the things that everybody agrees need to happen before we get to that stage. So
Mhm.
in any case, third party expenditures, we just bill them back. There's wages. We charge one flat fee actually throughout the entirety of things for what we call incidentals.
Yeah.
And then we charge back for the work, the wage work for our people on site. So if we had staff on site packing, unpacking, sorting, shipping things to relatives, doing the kind of work that our people can do on site, then we'll charge back those wages as well. So we're like the injury lawyers. We don't get paid until you get paid, but
Yeah.
that's essentially the sequence front to back.
And that makes it
And
easy
then,
for the
yep,
executor who's settling the estate, the fact that they don't have to lay out up front. I think that's brilliant. That's just a great advantage to the settlement of the estate for them.
it's huge. For some families, it's like the critical thing, right? For
Mhm.
others, they've got cash on hand. It isn't such a big deal.
Yeah.
But in all cases, it's more convenient. That's for sure. Right.
Yeah.
So then we just, we sell the property, we wrap up, everybody gets paid, and we do some client satisfaction surveys, make sure the client's happy, et cetera, and there we are.
That's
So
great.
that's essentially that conversation. I'll just stop the sharing part here.
Mhm. I like that. I
Mark?
mean, this is really helpful, Barry, because a lot of times I come across people who this would add tremendous value. They're overly stressed. They're doing so much, and they're not doing it well. And so I see a lot of value here. And so I think what we'll do is we're going to put the contact information for your company there, right in the comment section of the video, and then we'll allow people to review this, and then it becomes a good resource. I know for me to forward off to a lot of clients over the years when they need to think this through. So I really appreciate you being with us today, Barry.
Thanks very
And
much, Mark. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to share this with your clients.